Assalamu alaikum, and as always, welcome back. It's always nice to see you. Good to see you, everyone. So last time, again, I usually like to go back to last time and connect classes. Last time we had William Wordsworth, one of the most interesting poets of all time. And he is, in a way, the founder, probably the co-founder of Romanticism as a movement. In the Lyrical Ballads, which contains poetry by Wordsworth and Coleridge, we have, later on, they added something we refer to as the preface, the introduction, in which they spoke about poetry, what it means to write poetry, the language, the subject matter, and the sensibility, nature, and man, and individuality, and everything. Now, Wordsworth, remember the definition? Can someone remind me of the definition? Spontaneous, yeah?
It is the spontaneous of the overflow of the emotion.
Very good. This is half of the definition. The spontaneous overflow of powerful emotions recollected in tranquility and peace. The language is the language of everyday man and woman, of course. Don't feel offended, okay? Unless you have to. And the subject matters, situations from simple common life. Now, we will move today to two other romantic poets. One is Coleridge, Samuel Butler Coleridge, who is a friend, a very close friend to William Wordsworth. And then later on, we'll take Keats, who is a second generation romantic poet. Okay, so Coleridge was a friend. He was in so many ways similar to William Wordsworth, but at the same time, they had their own differences. And mainly because of these differences, Coleridge published his own autobiography later on, which he called Biographia Literaria. In other words, a literary biography, in which he speaks about himself and speaks about his ideology and philosophy in poetry and in life. But they share the common sensibility, the common features of Romanticism, generally the simplicity, generally the conversational tone in poetry. When we spoke about the Augustan poetry, in a way, I might have alluded to the fact that, I guess I said this, in classical poetry, there's always one world view. There's the poet, and the poet has one voice. And the voice in the poem, the voice of the poet or the speaker is dominating everything. We've seen this in Marlowe's Come Live With Me and Be My Love, and We Will All the Pleasures Prove, where the world view, the idea of the poet is dominating any other idea. That's why we don't hear the woman. We don't sense the woman there. And remember we said John Donne was trying to change this world view. He wanted to break the rules, break away with the rigidity. Now, generally, classical poetry could be described as monologic, like a monologue, where one person is speaking and everyone else is supposed to be audience, listener. For the Romantics, because they care about the individual, they create some sort of conversation in their poetry or a dialogue. We probably, in the other classes, I discussed Lucy Gray. In Lucy Gray, we feel this. Yes, the father tells the little girl, go to the town and fetch your mother. And the daughter replies, I'll do that. She obeys her father. This is a dialogue. It's not that deep and profound, but it tells us that for the Romantics, they want everyone to speak up, everyone to voice their opinions. So Coleridge and Wordsworth, they both have this. They're known for their, what we call, conversation poems. Conversation poetry. You read the poem, you feel that there is a dialogue. However, despite these similarities, there are differences. They are amazing friends, by the way. They were living in Lake District together, but later on, everyone had his own way of writing about poetry. So, for Wordsworth, poetry is about the day-to-day world, about life, everyday life. For Coleridge, he wanted to change. He wanted to do the opposite. Sometimes I'm not sure if you felt this in the Daffodils, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, where Wordsworth, in a way, transfers us from the world of simplicity, seeing a bunch of daffodils, to a supernatural world where man and nature are one, where man unites and melts with nature, where your heart dances, jumps and dances with daffodils. Okay? Now, Coleridge does the opposite. He creates a supernatural world. You know, supernatural world, some sort of like a magical world, a world that can't be true in real life. Like imaginative, like literature generally, all literature is fiction and imaginative. Some of it is based on truth and facts. But sometimes, like Harry Potter, Harry Potter, there are witches and wizards. There's magic. People fly. There are dragons. People fly on, brooms. We know that this is magical. But is Harry Potter realistic? Yes, it is realistic. Because of two things. Some people speak about something called magical realism. Okay, that's something I'm not interested in here. But people ask this question. Is Harry Potter someone, how does he behave? How does he speak? How does he react? Does he do this similar to the way we do as human beings? Yes. Even when you watch the Smurfs, Sanafir in a way, it's not realistic. It's cartoon, right? But sometimes you feel sad. You feel you like somebody, you hate somebody, you react to somebody, their reaction, how they love each other. So some people would say Harry Potter is realistic. We can't take the magic as an allegory, as about the power of resistance, the power of struggle. Some people take the magic as the power of friendship. Because of the friendship, Hermione and Ron and Harry, how they were always sticking together. They managed to be victorious, to beat the evil, making use of other friends around them. By the way, many people say Harry Potter is a taboo, and it's funny because it's a taboo. It's haram. You shouldn't watch. It's forbidden, and it's funny because some Muslims said this, some Jews said this, some Christians said this. So there's something that unites all three religions here. Because those people say that Harry Potter is about teaching magic. No, we know magic is not real. Like, there are people who do stuff, tricks. But we take this as an allegory, as a metaphor, something that goes beyond this. So Harry Potter is realistic. Because you could have a friend like Harry. It's not about being an orphan. It's about how he feels, how he talks, how he eats, how he studies. He's like a typical student here. Someone who hates studies sometimes who doesn't want to do exams, sometimes who wants to fight in order to help his friends in a way or another. Sometimes we watch cartoons where the main characters are animals. In a way, it's cartoon. It's not real. Cartoons, the cartoons don't exist in real life. And animals don't talk in real life. But do they teach us lessons? Do they teach us morals? Do they influence? In a way, yes. Now, later on I'll speak about this probably, but since I just mentioned it, Coleridge mentioned in his criticism something called suspension of disbelief. Suspend. If the study is suspended, you no longer go to classes. If someone is suspended from university, you're not allowed to come attend the classes. Okay? So suspense in the story, you have sometimes suspense where you wait for stuff. Suspension of belief or disbelief is a term that Coleridge came up with. Very significant. Listen. Literature is not about everything that happens in life. Every little tiny thing that happens in life. Literature is about selecting, choosing representative issues. When I write a short story about someone, about myself, about people, I don't write every little piece of detail. I just choose things to represent them in a way or another, to portray how they react, how they act in particular situation. Now, in literature and in movies, sometimes we see things that we don't believe. That is not logical. That doesn't make sense. Like sometimes in Hollywood action movies, sometimes would be carrying a gun and would be shooting like for 5 minutes. And sometimes some people around us, hasn't he run out of bullets yet? We ask this question. Sometimes we see somebody in a plane or in a train, and people ask, but we didn't see him or her buy a ticket. How did he manage to get through, right? And I have this funny question. Someone, he was joking, of course. He was like, I wonder why in movies sometimes people don't eat.
Yeah.
Unless it's about eating. So I laughed and I remember Coleridge, because Coleridge tells us that there's something we need to do here. We need to suspend our disbelief or our belief. What does it mean? It means we need to stop being logical. We need to stop being, rational. So suspend your disbelief and follow the plot and see what is behind, what is beyond the plot, because literature can't tell us everything. Meaning, you need to assume that it could have happened in the cuts, in the shots. So if somebody is shooting and the camera goes to the other direction, I need to assume that he changed the magazine in a way or another. If somebody doesn't eat in the whole movie, because the producer here is only selecting parts where he's at work, where he's doing other stuff other than. It doesn't mean they just are fasting all the time.
You don't have to stop at everything.
Exactly, because that would be boring. It means you will need to watch a movie that goes on for 5 years or 10 years or 50 years. You can't. Can you wait? Can you watch a movie for 50 years or 2 years or 2 months? No.
It would actually be
boring. It would be real life. And literature is not about 100% real life. It's about selecting things from real life. So the most significant thing about Coleridge being different is that he was interested in the supernatural. The supernatural in the sense that he takes us from a creative, imaginative world to the real world in real life. I'll give you an example here to make this clearer. But before I do that, when I talk about the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, there are 2 other texts written by Coleridge. Really interesting. Some of his texts are fragments. Listen, Coleridge was an amazing critic and an amazing poet at the same time. But his problem is that he had a drug problem. He was an opium addict. You know, drug addict?
Yeah.
A drug addict?
Yeah.
So he was addicted to drugs, to opium. So sometimes he would be writing an article or writing a poem, and somewhere in the middle he would just, go high, feel like take some drugs, and he would just be high, and then he would stop doing it. Many people say this is sad because he could have been an amazing, comprehensive, profound critic. And some people say no, probably it is because of the drugs we have the amazing stuff we have here. His Christabel and Kubla Khan, or Kubla Khan, where he creates symbolic, again, imaginative world. When you read Kubla Khan, whoa, he literally creates a new world in a way similar but on a smaller scale to the world that what's her name, J.K. Rowling creates in Harry Potter. Sometimes you feel like, oh my God, this J.K. Rowling is crazy. How can she imagine this whole world with the minute details? And that's the power of imagination we have here. So Kubla Khan is about a creative, imaginative world, imagination, which Coleridge considers the most powerful of all human senses. What is the most important sense of all? For the Romantics in general, for Coleridge in particular, imagination, which is a romantic feature. The power of imagination. The power of imagination. In Christabel here, in the poem he's trying to search for a fuller meaning in life. In a way, this is different from William Wordsworth. But the sad thing is that the poem is incomplete. So some people say, oh, this is a fragment. He should have completed it. But some people say, no.
Open-ended.
It's not about open-ended. It's just abruptly cut short somewhere. In a way, the form, the structure of the text is part of the meaning. In a way, he's saying that you can't find full meaning. You can't find like when you search for fuller meaning and understanding of life, you can't have that. You can never have that. And his poem being a fragment, it's like when someone says, if you study hard, and just stops there. That's a fragment, right? So you keep like, okay, what's going to happen? If I study hard, what are you going to do? Are you going to give us bonus? Are you going to give us more marks? Are you going to do another exam? What? And I just stop. Makes you think, right? But it also probably creates some sort of suspense, a world where you can't find an ending to what you're looking for. And this is life. Life, throughout all our lives, we try to search for meanings, right? For happiness, for pleasure, for a purpose in our lives. And we keep working and studying and working and making money sometimes and making friends and having family. And we grow old, and sometimes we don't feel that we really understand life, or we really have a full understanding of our own lives, at least. It's always incomplete. Like you said here, it's like an open-ended story. There's always more to life. So he does this in his poems, where he generally goes to the medieval form of verse and medieval settings. You know why? The Romantics, I guess I said this before, they try to skip the age of reason. They try to skip the Augustan age and even the Elizabethan age for many reasons, and they go back to the medieval ages. They take their settings and even their language and their style, because for them that was a very creative, very imaginative world to go back to. But again, the most important text, it's the longest text by Samuel Coleridge. It's the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Very important, very beautiful poem. I encourage you to go to YouTube today and just Google the Rime of the Ancient Mariner and enjoy the poem. The rime means song. Mariner is a sailor. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Now it tells a story about a group of people, about 200 people, who went to sea in a ship, and they were just, mariners, fishermen or something. Now those people, again, nature, right? Yeah. Nature. Those people get lost. And they are guided to the right path by a bird. A white bird, a white seabird. It's called the Albatross. Not sure if this is originally an Arabic name. The Albatross, it's not, there's the seagull, the seagull we have them here in Gaza. Yes. The seagull, Nawaras. This is Qatras. It's translated into Qatras. It's huge, it's bigger than the seagull. Not sure if they are the same species. The huge white bird, it comes, in a way, it guides them to safety. And they were like, whoa, because it saves them in a way, it rescues them. They were like, that's an amazing bird, thank you. But then later on, one of the mariners, this ancient mariner, shoots and kills the albatross. Just kills the bird. For no apparent reason. Stupid, because man is foolish, right? And at the beginning, his friends were like a little bit angry, nothing happens, and they were like, okay. So they let it happen. No one punished him. No one, at least, reprimanded, rebuked him. Or did something to him. And because of that, in a way, nature takes revenge. The wind stops, the sun stops, the waves stop, and the ship can't move. And they were lost. They couldn't go home. They couldn't move. There was no water to drink. Nothing. They were, again, being punished by nature for violating, destroying this natural element. We know in real life this doesn't happen. This is what is meant by supernatural. When you kill a bird, it's wrong, it's horrible. Don't do this. But nothing happens. Nature doesn't react like a cat reacts to you when you, when you cut a tree. It's horrible to nature. Don't do it. but the wind is not going to stop, the sun is not going to stop, and
You're not going to be punished.
But this is the supernatural world of Coleridge here. Now, one by one, all the sailors in the ship die. In a very graphic way. The description in the poem is really very graphic. This is punishment for the mariner himself. Now he wishes he were dead here in a way, but he can't even die. And this is very tough thing. When you wish to die and you can't, it's a horrible feeling here. The punishment is for him is to be alive and to witness every one of his friends die in front of him. And it goes on the poem, and later on he starts, the mariner, the ancient mariner, starts to appreciate little life, starts to see certain creatures, and he sort of like appreciates them, looks at them differently. Remember when he killed the albatross? He just was like, this is insignificant. As a bird, it's insignificant. But now he started to appreciate the little things, the birds, the fish, the animals. And before this happened, I have to say this because it's significant. Before his friends died one by one, they put the albatross around his neck. And it's now, by the way, a famous idiom in English. When you say something is an albatross around my neck, or his neck or her neck, it's like a curse. Like you can't do it. Or for example, you do something wrong, something horrible, and you say, for example, this is an albatross around my neck. You don't study for a course, you don't get a high score, so you say, oh, this course, you feel guilty, you feel it's like a curse that it is chasing you everywhere. So it's an albatross around the neck. When he starts to appreciate nature, the albatross falls, and in a way he goes back to where he came from. He doesn't die, he was saved. Why doesn't Coleridge kill him? Because he learns the lesson. If he dies, the whole story is going to die. The whole tale is going to die with him. And this is literature. The moral is that literature is the moral, the lesson itself, the story itself. Now his punishment, he's punished here severely. But part of his redemption, how to cleanse himself, to heal himself, is to tell the story to everyone, to the people around him, the people in town. So how does the poem begin? Actually, the poem begins from the end, or in the middle, in medias res. We spoke about this probably before. So he meets 3 wedding guests, people going to a wedding. You know, when you are going to a wedding to celebrate, probably there's food and, stuff, celebrations, festive mood. And he was like, wait, I'm going to tell you a story. And he's very old with his beard and everything, and he very frightening. And the people are like, get out with your bright eyes. We don't want to talk to you. And he just kind of holds one of the guests. And he physically makes this wedding guest listen to his story. At the beginning, he doesn't want to. He was reluctant, but later on, he was inspired and attracted by the story. He was, wow, what a lesson this is. So, yeah, he starts by using flashback, narrating the story to the wedding, the guest here. Now, at the end of the story, what happens is that they both become sadder and wiser. Sad because we do a lot of horrible things to ourselves, to people, to nature, right? If I teach you how to respect nature, how to love nature, how to appreciate nature, you will feel guilty in a way. And if you feel guilty and stop doing the pollution, throwing rubbish here or there, to say the least, you're going to become wiser and better. And literature makes you wiser and better. Nature makes you wiser. And so Mother Nature is the best teacher here. This is a romantic feature in this text. So let's see how the text goes here, extract from the text. Read, please.
The rhyme of ancient mariner. Day after day, we stuck, nor breath, nor motion.
No breath.
No breath, nor motion. As idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean, water everywhere, and all the boards did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drops drink. Yes.
Okay. One more, please.
Day after day, we stuck nor bread nor nation, as idle as a painted ship, open a painted ocean.
Upon a painted ocean.
Water,
Waiter, waiter, bring the food. But water. Yeah.
Water everywhere, and all the birds did
Shrink.
Water everywhere, nor any drop to drink.
Yes.
Thank you, Batniji. Excellent. Okay. Now look at this. Very simple. You don't have to use the dictionary, right? Simple language, simple structures. And in many ways, he doesn't follow one particular structure. Sometimes he uses stanzas of 6 lines, 5 lines. The rhyme scheme is not the same. It's not. So here, day, A, B, C,
B.
ocean, motion, same. Okay? A, B, C, B. Motion, ocean. Okay? Shwa, shwa, in. A, B, A, B. Doesn't follow the rules, the strict rules of classical poetry writing, etc. But look at this, the beauty, the repetition, the simplicity, the emotions here. Day after day, day after day. This is a narrative story, by the way, a narrative poem. It tells a story. We stuck, no breath, no motion. We couldn't move, we were stuck somewhere. As idle as a painted ship. And this is one of the most amazing similes. Remember the similes here. When you liken something, like or as. He could have stopped here. As idle as a painted ship. وكأننا سفينة مرسومة يعني. Idle like something that doesn't move. If someone stays at home, doesn't have a job, doesn't want to work, we describe him or her as idle. Okay? But he goes further to upon a painted ocean. It's not only like everything is still. Nothing moves. That's nature punishing them. Water everywhere, and all the boards did shrink. Generally, when there's water, the boards don't shrink. The wood doesn't shrink. It expands more or less. But here, everything is turned upside down. Water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. This is ironic, could be, because there's water all over the place. Some people might say, no, this is not ironic, because we don't aslan yani drink the seawater. Yeah, so it's salty. But in a way, there is this thing. Water. This is nature. Sometimes, if you destroy nature, violate nature, nature is going to take the most important, significant thing you have as people. So there is water, but it's polluted. There is air, but it's polluted. Soil, polluted. Food, polluted. Water everywhere, and all the boards did shrink. Water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. This could happen in Ramadan, so maybe a seal at 6 a.m., first day of Ramadan, she would be waking up like water everywhere. Nor any drop to drink. By the way, this is also about global warming and climate change. This is this is how poetry starts everything. And finally, in the at the end of the poem, this is the third stanza from the bottom. This is the moral lesson here. He prays, huh? He prays. He prays best who loves best, all things both great and small, for the dear God who loved us, he made and loved us all. Some people say this is about Christianity. I don't think it is a pure religious poem. It's a romantic poem because for people, nature is religion. In a way, nature is God for the romantics because they worship, they adore nature. In the text here, there is the other actually stanza that says, he breathes well who loves well, both man, bird, and beast. He breathes best who loves best, all things, both great and small. That's the moral. You need to love all and everything. And that's our friend Coleridge. Really interesting. Please have time, if not now, in the summer break, read his poetry, especially this one. Really, really cool. I'll post a video on the Facebook group tonight. But you're not required to do more than this. This is an introduction course, so we're just taking bits and pieces. And by the way, listen, this is funny. William Wordsworth did not like this poem.
Why?
Go read more about this, but he didn't like it. He didn't like the Mariner, he didn't like the text in many ways. But he was like, when we publish another book, I'll take it out. But he couldn't. In the second book, the second edition, it was also there. But he did not like it. Coleridge, one thing I like about Coleridge is that he was one of the early critics who praised John Donne. And this is not surprising, by the way. Because in a way, remember, the metaphysical, the romantics share some common features.
He didn't follow all the rules.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
why he liked John Donne.
Yeah, in a way.
So
Anti-classical.
to Google, we can know the reason.
Yeah, do that.
That means that, you know,
Yeah. But sometimes sometimes I find myself chained because I want to say a lot of things, but at the same time I don't want to say a lot of things because this is an introduction course.
Maybe it's
But
because
this is to inspire you. This is to make you love texts, love literature, love certain poets, and to go do more reading. Okay, so this is John Keats. We'll do something about Keats here. Listen. Okay, everyone? Let's go to Keats. Now, after William Wordsworth and Samuel Coleridge, we have what we call the younger generation, the second generation of the Romantics. And Keats is one of them. Many people love Keats and appreciate him and love his poetry because he died very young. He was only 25 when he died young. Remember? Many people died young, and it was like it gives them this image about, like prophets, like perfect people, as if they are fictional characters, perfect fictional characters. But actually his poetry is beautiful. His poetry is lively. His poetry is unique in many ways. It's romantic, but it's unique in many ways. Of course, he was inspired by Coleridge and Wordsworth, but he was closer to Coleridge in a sense than to Wordsworth. We see how he is interested in, for example, the mythical, classical, and medieval backgrounds. How he was interested in the supernatural rather than the natural, still a romantic. And how some of his poetry is even incomplete.
Right.
So some of his poems remain fragments. So there are similarities between Keats and Coleridge. Now, Keats, if you want to remember Keats, remember him as someone who was seeking truth and beauty all his life. Again, in a way like Coleridge, he was seeking for a fuller meaning of life. In his poetry, you always find this urgency to find truth, to find meaning, to make sense of life. Because remember, Shakespeare was fascinated, obsessed with time, because time was destructive. It kills every fair from fair sometimes declines. Also, Keats, in many ways, he was obsessed with this. He was in a particular trek or journey to find meaning, to give more meaning or more truth to his life. And sadly, I think he drowned. Was it he or Shelley? Was it he or Shelley who drowned? I don't know, but he died very young, 25. And that's very paradoxical. It's very sad when people are interested in something. It's like when someone who adores kids very much, and then they don't have kids. You feel, sorry for them. So this man wanted to give a lot of meaning to his life. And paradoxically, this is one reason why a lot of people love his poetry, read his poetry, do research on his poetry, in a way or another. So, his themes are focused on the search for, there is this struggle, the search for beauty, for truth, for happiness, for permanence, in a way for immortality. You know immortality? Immortality, like al-khulud, to live forever. Sadly, he died, but because of poetry and literature, he lives forever. Now, almost 200 years later, we study Keats, we praise him, we appreciate him. We say good things about him. Okay? So, he is always doing this search, seeking truth, seeking beauty. And where does he find beauty and truth? Can you tell?
In nature.
Nature, yeah, in poetry.
Yeah.
For him, poetry is truth. Poetry, or not only poetry, but artistic creation, like paintings, like sculptures, anything that is art. Because, listen, what is art? What is poetry? What is literature? Generally about the best of us, in a way, the best of our surrounding. Even if it is a tragedy or a sad story, we pick the best. When you write a story, when you write something, you want to write the best possible piece, or to paint. When you do a painting, you don't say, I want to paint a bad painting, because you want to express yourself in the best possible way, or to impress, or to reach out to people in a way or another. So some of his poetry, again, like I said, remains in fragments. His major poems, like Ode to the Nightingale, or a Nightingale, you know Nightingale? العندليب البلبل, you know, bird. And Ode to a Grecian urn. The urn means vase, or vase, two pronunciations. You know vase?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Excellent drawing, right? 1 mark for you, minus.
Why not?
So Keats here, he comes to the conclusion that art, literature, artistic creation is the best possible way to give meaning to our lives, to give life to our lives. Because he says beauty is truth and truth is beauty. We'll see this. So he shows that art and artistic creation can make things permanent. And he is right. Listen, you could do many things, and people will forget you as soon as you die, or 10 years, or 15 years, or 100 years after you die. But when you produce art, when you are a painter, when you are an artist, when you write poetry, when you write literature, it will live forever, and people will study it, and people will appreciate it, because literature is timeless and universal. We're studying Shakespeare here, and he died. We're studying Beowulf, and the author died, right? 1,000 years ago, or even more or less. And this is the beauty of literature. We study literature written by people of different colors, people of different religions, backgrounds, and ethnicities, everything. We still love the literature and appreciate it. So this is where he finds beauty and meaning and truth in art, in literature. So he believes that poetry can keep human feelings and ideas alive and forever. And this is the extract we need to study here. It's taken from an Ode to a Grecian urn, to the vase. And by the way, he's talking directly to this artistic creation, to the vase itself. Interesting dialogue, interesting conversation. You usually talk to people, right? But here art is the other part of the dialogue. When old age shall this generation waste, when I grow old and die, but sadly he didn't grow old. He didn't grow old, yeah? Sad. So when you find this in his poetry, it's like when I get married and I have kids and I have my job, but this person telling this story is already dead. You're like, oh. So he makes us feel this. He shakes our hearts so many times when you read the poem. Thou shalt thou, you, the urn, right? In midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest. So who's saying this? Who's the speaker here? The urn itself. What does the urn tell us? What does the text teach us? What does poetry teach us? What if, he's saying, if the poem speaks, it's going to say this. If the vase, as an artistic expression, artistic creation, if it speaks, what is it going to tell us? Beauty is truth, truth, beauty. Beauty is truth. And truth, beauty. Truth, beauty. Beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all. That's it. That's what life is about as a romantic poet here. Ye know, that is all you know on earth, and all ye need to know. Ye hear you. We have this before, like, gather ye buds. In the sense it was your. So, what is Keats here? This is a text from And the ode, or Ode to a Grecian Urn, by John. I know we have so many Johns, so focus on the last name. Keats. Keats. When you want to add possessive S to Keats, it could be like this. You say, or two options. You have two options. Keats's. This is a Keats's poem. I prefer this. It's clearer, but this is correct. So what is he doing here? This text has the features of Romanticism, a feature of William, what's his name, John Keats in particular, where art is the most significant expression of beauty and truth. Where poetry, where literature is beauty, is truth. Where literature, where poetry, where art gives us meaning and makes us live forever and ever and ever. Because he died young, he was even now, he is a symbol of Romanticism and the Romantic movement. Keats. I'll stop here for Keats, but I have an extra text just for fun, so to speak. Okay? This is an extra slide where you have things I just mentioned. How in autumn, again, he does the same thing about stressing beauty and fullness of life, and how he symbolizes the Romantic movement. Now, just 2 or 3 minutes maximum. In this poem, I've just been kidding with my colleague here, and I told her that there is a ghost living in this poem. This poem is haunting the readers. It has been haunting readers for a long time. Let's see what it does to us. The title is not this hand, not hand, or the living hand. This, like when someone says this, you just try to look. He's performing the poem. He's saying, this living hand. In a way, he gives us the impression that this is the hand. You can touch it, you can feel it. Now warm and capable. Now, in a way, I think he's writing the poem while he's writing the poem. It's like when you have a dream and you're dreaming in the dream.
Yeah.
Okay? So, this hand, now warm and capable of earnest grasping, would, if it were cold, when a person dies, lifeless, it goes cold. And in icy silence of the tomb, grave, so haunt thy days. Now it's full of life. You look at the hand, but when it is icy and cold, it's haunting. Haunting like terrorizes you, scares you in a way. Thy days and chill thy dreaming nights. If you see it in a dream, it's going to be spooky, frightening. That thou would wish thine own heart dry of blood. You would wish, oh my God, I don't want to see this scene. You wish your own heart, you wish you were dead. You don't want to see this scene. So in my veins, now the veins, where the blood goes, in my veins, red life might stream again and again. How can something comes to life again after it's dead? And thou be conscience calmed. See here, who's he talking to? To us, to the readers, to the future readers. See here, here it is. Here it is. This is my hand. So it's someone like, you imagining the hand writing the text, and all of a sudden in the text he tells you, see, just like sticking the hand outside, I hold it towards you, like this. I swear, when I first read this poem, I was like really indulged in the poem. I was like, because I was, visualizing the text, seeing the hand, feeling the hand, imagining the hand, and feeling And then when he says, here it is, I hold it towards you, I was like, I felt that the hand was literally, physically sticking out of the book, out of the text, and reaching out to me. This is a fragment. It's an incomplete poem. It does magic to go back home, try to read it, and it visualize what's going on. And Keats does this all the time. funny here. I don't think it's funny is the right word, but this is a living text. He's reaching to us 200 years later through his poetry, through his writing. He's dead, but his poetry is living, alive forever. Thank you very much. We stop here, and next class we continue with Shelley, Percy Shelley, and